Welcome to WCTM Breaking News by Kids for Kids. My name is River.
And my name is Darby.
Our news team has been busy with special investigations, so we have lots to cover today, including inspiration hiding in local neighborhoods and a report on ballet during COVID. And we'll be investigating Hurricane Isaias that passed through earlier this month. Newscaster Madison has held a social justice panel. Let's check it out.
Welcome to WCTM. My name is Madeline Mayo, and we are here today with Nancy Dix, Mark Weffers, and Al Ruiz to talk about starting civil rights teams in your school. What inspired you to stand up for injustice?
Civil rights and human rights starts with your right to be alive. And if you're the victim of an illegal, unconstitutional, unjust, unfair war, that's definitely an infringement on your civil rights. So that's what really got me into it, for sure.
When I was in school, the civil rights movement in the South was very much in the news. And I was particularly moved by the Freedom Riders, who were students, college students who rode buses to the South, very dangerous work to register voters and to work for civil rights in the South. And I remember thinking to myself, would I be brave enough to do that?
Then when we got to college, and I met some very brilliant people who I still think of as dear friends. They drew me to them, and they educated me tremendously and got me active so I could take action on my own beliefs that I had basically not acted upon for many years. And they were a huge inspiration to me. I saw what they were doing, what they were capable of, and they tremendously inspired me.
How can kids today stand up for civil rights?
They can read, they can organize, they can get together, they can talk to each other and learn more about these issues and push the grown-ups to do a better job, push their teachers to do a better job. You know, whose story are you learning in school? Whose story are you not learning in school? Why not? Stay curious, stay questioning, and of course, above all, join a civil rights team in your school or start one.
I'd say, Madeline, the two-word answer to that is a phrase that goes back again to the late 60s and early 70s. And believe me when I tell you that I suggest that this be done very respectfully. But the answer to your question in two words is question authority. Question your teachers, question your parents. Do so with courtesy and politeness. As kids, I guess the first thing is not only question authority, but also educate yourself. Educate yourself about history, educate yourself about geography, educate yourself about international relations, economics, and all of these social sciences that civilization hopefully will use to advance ourselves so that we have health, peace, prosperity, all the good things that everybody wants to have.
Nancy mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to ask, what is a civil rights team?
The effort is run through the Attorney General's office in Maine, and it is an effort to make all schools safe and welcoming, and for every student to feel accepted for who they are in their school. And the Attorney General's office organizes these civil rights teams, but any school, elementary through high school, can apply to have a team. You only need a few interested students and one willing adult who can be a teacher or not a teacher, but somebody who's willing to help organize the team. And the Civil Rights Project at the Attorney General's office will supply you with resources and guidelines and ideas, huge amount of ideas of how to be able to talk about civil rights in your school. How to get specifically, how to have kids thinking about and talking about the areas of civil rights, including race and skin color, national origin and ancestry, religion, disabilities, gender, and sexual orientation.
Do you have any words of inspiration for our youthful activists?
I had the pleasure of listening to Sister Simone Campbell speak, and in her speech, she said the words that were in her head all the time were walk toward trouble, to not be afraid to cause a little trouble, and to walk toward it. So, not the usual message you hear in school.
Start thinking about responsibility in terms of you have a responsibility for yourself, which will never leave. You will always, throughout your life, have a responsibility for your own conduct, your own decisions that you make that affect other people, including members of your family. Then start looking around for somebody who's not as well off as you, or some group of people that need some help, or some injustice that you witness, and then start to talk about ways that you can contribute to make some changes to improve society.
Take small steps at a time. You're not going to achieve major successes.
When children say enough, enough, you know, when the Parkland kids organized for gun control, that made a huge impression because it was the kids saying, this is my world, this is my life. You can't keep endangering it. So I think children and students and young people have a tremendous role to play that just can't be overstated.
That was very inspirational. Thank you so much for being with us today and having these important conversations. This has been Madeline with WCTM.
Thank you for hosting this panel, Madeline. I really learned a lot. Before we look at our next story, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Gorham Saving Bank. Banking is believing.
In our second story, newscaster Addie brings us a special report from Maine State Ballet. Take it away, Addie.
Hello and welcome back to this special report on Maine State Ballet in the time of COVID. Here I have a dancer at Maine State Ballet, Aubrey, who is also a good friend of mine. And I'll be interviewing her today about dancing at Maine State Ballet during COVID. Has COVID changed how you think you're going to go back to normal? And is there anything you're going to remember or carry through from this when we go back to normal dancing?
Honestly, I feel like I'm just gonna sometimes at dance I'd be like, I don't really want to go, but after COVID, I feel like I'm just gonna really respect my classes and I'm not going to take advantage of them. I'm gonna be grateful that I can do it.
Yeah, and especially with the less class time, I assume that made you really appreciate going.
Also, the fact that they're open is just amazing.
And so what was the biggest change for you?
Probably not being able to do as much summer camp. Because before we did every day, we had lunch there. I got to be with all my friends, and that was a really big change.
Yeah, to go from that to for an hour and a half twice a week.
Yeah.
Was there anything that helped you adjust specifically? Because you already said how hard it was to adjust.
I feel after a little bit, I just kind of got used to it because I can, if something changes, I can get used to it, pretty quickly, a day or two. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't too hard for me to adjust to, being in a different area or, situation.
Well, this has been very insightful, and thank you for being interviewed. This has been WCTM Breaking News by Kids for Kids. I'm newscaster Addie, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
We have a special weather segment for you today. We all experienced Hurricane Isaias earlier this month, but what is a hurricane anyway? A hurricane is a low-pressure weather system that forms over and is fueled by tropical ocean waters and travels by large winds called global winds, which is how it moved all the way up here. They move cyclonically, which means they spin, and the middle of the hurricane is called the eye, which is calmer than the rest of the storm. To learn more about the science behind hurricanes, have a grown-up help you and check out resources like hurricanescience.org or discovery.com. In our final story, newscaster Riley has uncovered some extra special inspiration around her neighborhood.
Hello, this is Riley from WCTM K4K. I'm here in the greater Portland area where these mysterious rocks have been appearing in neighborhood yards. These aren't just any rocks. These rocks have a message. These rocks have been appearing in each yard all across my neighborhood and many others. I noticed this rock when I was walking around and happened to look down. It says, "Be radiant." One says, "Support." This one says, "Rise up." We don't know who is doing it, but they are beautiful and inspiring. And in a time of social distancing, it makes us all feel a little closer together.
We don't have rocks, but people in our neighborhood are spreading positive messages with chalk in their driveways.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. But before we go, we would like to take a moment to thank the generous businesses who have sponsored our first 6 episodes.
Thank you.
We couldn't have done it without you. We are always looking for new sponsors. If you or your business would like to help sponsor future episodes of our newscast, please contact the development office at development@kitetails.org.
Thank you for joining us today. You have been watching WCTM Breaking News by Kids for Kids. My name is River.
My name is Darby.
Signing off. See you next time.